AI means artificial intelligence.
When it comes to working out what went wrong at the election, the worst ever result for the Liberal Party, I know you have suggested that the party could use artificial intelligence to help understand where it went wrong. Can you just explain that? What role would AI play in this process?
Well, very interestingly, last week after the election result, I just used some, off-the-shelf AI just to ask what AI thought about the Liberal Party and the election result. And there was I think probably...
What did it say?
Well, actually, more than anything, it showed me that there were so many different issues that Australians were considering when they went to the ballot box to vote, that I think it shows us that we absolutely have to look at everything, because there was no clear theme, apart from quite clearly the Australian public went to the ballot box and didn't vote for us.
Look, I'm not sure how much experience Anne Ruston has had with AI, but I decided to have a crack at this myself. I jumped onto ChatGPT and asked why the coalition lost the 2025 federal election, and if there were any consistent themes that would have indicated reasons for their loss. It's probably fair to say that my experience with ChatGPT was a little different than the experience Anne Ruston seems to have had with her off-the-shelf AI tool. I mean, there are some consistent themes provided here. Not perfect, but probably a decent place to start if you're a shell-shocked coalition wandering around as if you were on the brink of extinction with no real idea of where you went wrong. Let's take a quick look. Dissatisfaction with Liberal leadership and a campaign that was clearly failing to resonate with voters, particularly women, younger voters and the urban population. Furthermore, the coalition entered the election with overconfidence, relying heavily on internal polling that failed to capture the electorate's mood, leading to complacency in campaigning efforts. Could be something in that. Maybe they were listening too much to Sky News.
The polls you're reading in the news are wrong when it comes to this federal election. Most national polls have been showing Labor ahead, and some have even pointed to majority government for Labor. But this is a fantasy.
But if their internal polling was telling them something completely different to all the other polling that was being done, maybe that should have been enough for some people inside the coalition to be asking questions. And we have policy disconnect on climate and energy. I think people were rightly sceptical of what the coalition were offering, and nuclear power was not the vote winner the coalition thought it would be. And yeah, internal divisions also seem to have hurt their messaging. Having this sort of stuff come out just further muddied the waters.
I don't support the establishment of big nuclear facilities here at all. I'm opposed to it.
Nuclear's not going to cut it. Nuclear's not going to cut it. I mean, like, we're as guilty as this too, right? We're not serious. We're latching onto nuclear. Why? On my side of politics. I fully support getting rid of the ban of it. A bill in the Senate to get rid of it. Yeah. We should build some nuclear power stations. They'll help. They'll help our system. But we're latching onto it as a silver bullet, as a panacea, because it fixes a political issue for us, that it's low emission and it's reliable. But it ain't the cheapest form of power.
I mean, from the outside looking in, it's hard to know whether those that believe climate change is a real thing form the majority or minority within the coalition. Then we have neglect of cost of living concerns. Outside of Dutton popping up at petrol stations, the coalition had nothing in the way of economic policy to convince voters they would deal with cost of living. But lack of policy in general seemed to be an issue across the board. ChatGPT seems to have doubled down on the alienation of key voter groups, so I guess that's a theme the coalition would want to look at, right? To do that, the first step there would be for them to acknowledge that they have a problem, which doesn't seem like something they're willing to do. Again, a bit of a double up of an earlier theme: internal division, disagreement over policy direction, where there were actually policies to disagree on, and a lack of cohesive strategy. Like I said, from the outside looking in, it's hard to say whether or not a majority of the coalition even believe that climate change is real, and that's not a good thing. Good one, AI. Association with controversial international figures. How very diplomatic of you. Dutton spent most of his time as opposition leader running direct from the Trump playbook. There were times where that paid off for him, but as soon as Trump retook office, Australians were reminded what a Trump presidency looked like. And that Trump playbook became an anchor for the coalition. The fact that the MAGA light element within the coalition didn't see that,
We can make Australia great again.
or even worse, chose to ignore it, well, that just helped deliver a massive Labor win.
What we have to do is make sure that we make the Liberal Party great again. I said it, there we go. So we can make Australia great again by the way. And no one should have any backlash about that. That's a simple statement. Trump himself said it during the American campaign. Why are they getting stuck into this slogan? Who doesn't want to make America great again?
Self-reflection's off the table.
Well, it's kind of funny looking at some of the messaging that's come out of right-wing lobby group Advance post-election, celebrating the fact that the Greens lost 4 lower house seats, while at the same time seeming to ignore the fact that all Advance seem to have achieved, if they've achieved anything at all, has been to hand Labor a massive majority in the lower house. When the Liberal Party's investment arm donated so much money to Advance, do you think they realised that this is what they were going to get for their money?
Part of the deal.
So as the AI overlord says, the coalition's loss can be attributed to leadership issues, policy misalignments, failure to address economic concerns, alienating key voter blocks, internal divisions, and controversial international associations. I mean, AI is only as good as the information it's leached from, but I think that would be a pretty good starting point for the coalition to look at.
The product offering that we took to the Australian public, quite clearly Australians did not support.
But a review of what went wrong is only going to work if the party is capable of self-reflection, and there's just no evidence that the party is capable of self-reflection whatsoever.
In a nutshell, the review is pretty scathing, but what really stuck out to me was its identification of how the Liberal Party really hemorrhaged the female professional vote. So it says that in the top 50 seats by female professionals, the Liberal Party now only holds 10 seats where previously it held 25. So I'll take you to some recommendations now the review's authors have suggested to fix this. So number 28, the federal executive adopt a target of 50% female representation within our parliamentary ranks within 10 years or 3 terms. Let's note there, Tom, that's a target, not a quota. And recommendation 29, to improve the pipeline of experience and talent within our divisions, state executives establish a target of 50% for female membership. But they don't stop there. The review also shows that the party lost major ground in the cities and now only holds 4 of the 44 inner metropolitan seats.
What did the report have to say about how the Liberal Party's failings enabled the Teals to make such great advances in this campaign and assume seats in the federal parliament?
Well, there are the substantive issues of integrity, climate and women, although the report is chock full of references to what they need to do to win back women voters and improving a representation of women in the party, but there's only one mention of climate change.
3 years later.
I would say I think the party needs to shift back to the right. I've been quite open about that. I think the only way this party is going to appeal to the electorate is to dump net zero. We have to do it. And I'm a bit sick of hearing people saying we shouldn't fight the culture wars. Well, they started it, by the way.
There was no self-reflection in 2022, and I'll be surprised if there's any this time around either. And to support that point, here we have Jacinta Price on Sky News.
Why do you think your ticket with Angus Taylor and yourself failed?
Oh, look, there's many probably reasons why it failed. I guess I can reflect on that, or I can look at the fact that we've got to move forward as a party, as a coalition, in fact. And there's a lot of work that needs to occur to rebuild.
It's a fact that voters have sent the coalition a message again. The coalition need to decide if they're going to listen to voters this time around, or if they're just going to continue taking their lead from the Gina and Ruperts of the world. Actually, maybe the coalition could use AI to help them with that conundrum as well. Nailed it.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.